Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel Learn Code with Nav. Today I'm very excited to make this video because I'm going to cover CRUD operation using Spring Boot, Spring Data JPA and MySQL database. I will go through the workflow as well, how requests come to the REST controller, how we can process the data, how we can manipulate the data, and finally how we can save the data into the database. So let's look into this one, this diagram. As you can see here, user can send a request and the request will be accepted by the REST controller. REST controller will interact with a service layer, and service layer will interact with DAO, and DAO will interact with database, and we will get the data from the database, and DAO will manipulating the data, give back to the service layer, and service do the business logic for our application, and service will return the data to REST controller, and REST controller will finally give back to the user. Now how we can see, now we need to see how we can create in a Java code using a Spring Boot, Spring Data JPA and MySQL. Let's go to the Spring initializer to create our Spring Boot application. So project should be Maven type. We are going to use Java as a language. Spring Boot version, any version more than 3 is enough for our code. Group ID should be com.learn code with nav. Name should be CRUD demo. A project for Spring Boot CRUD operation. We would need web, since we are going to create a REST endpoint or web services. We would need JPA as a dependency, as we need to interact with database. We would need dev tool as well, Spring Boot dev tool, since we do not want to restart after every changes or modification in our code. Now let me click on generate. Now zip will be created for our project. What we need to do is we need to go to download folder, extract this zip, and close this one. Go to Eclipse, go to file, import project, existing Maven project, browse, go to the location where we have extracted just now, that is the one we are looking for, CRUD demo, and let me click on finish. We are going to interact with MySQL database, so we would need to add MySQL dependency in our pom.xml file. So this is a MySQL Maven dependency. We need to add in inside dependencies tag. Let me save this one. Let me Maven update this one. Update project, force update of snapshot or releases. Now we are done with project configuration. Now let me create one class for controller. Let's say I want to create person controller. And it should be in controller package. Let me refactor this one. It should be in controller package. So basically we have created one class named as person controller, and we are defining that one in controller package. Now my user always requests for my REST controller, then REST controller will interact with service will interact with DAO, and DAO will interact with database. So we are going to perform CRUD operation for person entity. So first we need to create entity for person. Let me update this one so that whatever we have done refactoring will be alright. Okay, now you can see controller in a different package. Now let me create entity person entity. This should be in entity package. So what we are creating an entity class that should be created our table. Let's say I want to create a person table in database, so we have defined one class, public class person. So the table name will be created as person. How do we mark this class as a entity? Simply use entity annotation. And if I want to specify the table name explicitly, then we can define here. Otherwise it will take the class name as a table name. Okay, fine. For my table I want to create one primary key that should be id private long id. How we can mark this one as a primary key? By using @id annotation. We need to give generated value as well. On which basis it is going to be generate. Okay, and we need to give a strategy for creating primary key. I am saying I need identity. I will create separate video for this strategy. What are the types, in which scenarios we need to use which one, and so on and so forth. I have created my table as a person, and I have defined id as a primary key, and generation type I have already told here at the line number 14. Now let me create one more column that will store name of the person. Let me define one more that should be, let's say, mobile number. Let's say phone, or say mobile. Or let's say I want to store date of birth. Let me create one constructor with no arg. Let me create parameterized constructor using field. Let me add getter and setter here. Now whatever the variables we are defining here, that will be created columns in our table. We have done our table part or entity part. Now let me create service person service interface, and it should be in service. We are creating interface, and we will implement this interface in our class so that it will satisfy solid principles I in interface segmented, or D dependency inversion. Now let me create one more class in service layer that will be our person service IMPL. Okay, and this class should implement person service interface. To make any class as a service, we need to put one annotation, that is service. Now this class will act as a service for my project. And for controller is nothing but a simple Java class that contain @rest controller annotation on top of it. Rest controller is nothing but the combination of @controller and @response body. Okay, so far so good. So we have created controller, we have created service, we have created entity. As we can see in the diagram, we have created REST controller, we have created service, we have created entity. Now we need to create DAO layer. Okay, let me create one more interface. That should be person DAO, and it should be in a DAO package. Okay, person DAO is nothing but it should be extending JPA repository. So whatever we are going to perform operation on the database or table, we will use JPA repository. So we won't write SQL queries explicitly. We need to call method, and internally it will call those SQL queries and execute it for us. Now how we can create repository, how we can create our DAO layer? We have created simple interface person DAO, which will extends JPA repository, and it will accept two parameter. One is which kind of entity you are creating repository for. Let's say I am creating repository for person DAO, and that is expanding JPA repositories, and it will ask what is your entity. I would say that my entity is person, and this person you can find in entity package. And they are saying what is the ID type of person, the entity which you have given here, what is the ID primary key of that entity. So I would say that is long. And lastly, but just need to put one annotation on top of it, that is repository. Okay, now we have created everything. We have created project structure, basic project structure. If I am guiding you the basic project structure as well. First I have created REST controller. Request will be accepted by this REST controller only. User will send a request, and request will be accepted by REST controller. Now REST controller will interact with service layer to perform the business logic onto it. Then service layer can interact database as per the requirement. If we are DAO is nothing but data access object. So if you want to access data object, we would need to communicate with database. Then in this scenario, entity will come into the play. Now let's see how we can use service here. Simply auto-void here. I hope you guys are aware of auto-void. If not, then please let me know in the comment section. I will create a separate video of it. I would say that I would want user service being person service. Person service and I will use this service here in controller. Let's say I want to save we are going to perform CRUD operation. You know, CRUD stands for C stands for create, R for retrieve, U for update, D for delete. So first we will create a resource in this REST endpoint web service. For creating a resource or creating a data into database, we would need post. This is the HTTP guideline. Whenever you are creating a new resource, always use post method. So I would say that I am using post mapping. When we are saying that we can do one thing on the class level, we will give one mapping, that is request mapping. I would say this is for persons. Okay, now post mapping, I would say that public method modifier accessibility should be public so that it can be accessible from anywhere. Now I will say that I would return, let's say, common response. Common response will be our customized class. I will define later on. I will say add person. Okay, let me create common response class as well. This is create class common response, and this should be in a DTO. DTO is nothing but data transfer object, or we can say DTO dot response. When we are creating request, then we would say DTO dot request. It will contain nothing but the only two variables. One should be what is the code, and one is should be what is the message you want to give the user when performing certain operations. Let me create on generate. Now we have created getter, setter, and no arc constructor, which is fine. It will accept something data from the user, so I would use @request body. And what will be the data? Let's say that this should be the person DTO. Person DTO will be our request. Let me create this class, and this should be in a DTO dot request. Okay, and this will contain all the same variables which we have in entity. So I would ID will be auto generated. I would need these three values. I will define here. I would say give me the name of the person, give me the mobile number of the person, and date of birth of it. Let me create a constructor. Let me generate a getter and setters of it. Let me save this one. Now it will accept few data from the user, and post that we would process that one and save into the database. Now we will call person service dot, we would say save person info in DB. If it will return me boolean true or false. If this is the case, then I would say return entity dot status dot http dot ok I would create new of common response. Common response, we would need parameterized constructor as well here. I would say that if it will return true, that means person information has been saved into DB, and we would say that 200 person detail has been saved successfully. If this is not the case, if it will return true, then we would say unable to save person details. And we can change status as per our requirement. Okay, now we have created this one. Now let me create this method here. If we are creating method interface, then we would need to override this one in service implementation of this interface. Now controller will interact with service. Now we need to write all business logic here, and let's say we need to interact with database, then we need to go to DAO. So we need to auto-wired here. Person DAO. Person DAO. Now we need to write all the logic here, which is business logic, and saving those information in database. First we need to initialize our person entity. So I would say that initialize person, and it would say it will accept person DTO, and it will give me a return of person object, which is entity of our. So I have created one method, initialize person, which I will accept person DTO, and it will return me an entity of person. And it will give me this back. Person dot set name, I will extract the name from person DTO dot get name. Same I will do for mobile number as well. Mobile get mobile, and last one is date of birth. It will extract from person DTO date of birth, and it will return me person. Now finally, once I got person object, then we can call person DAO dot save and pass this entity here. it will give me person object if it is saved. Then I would simply say if saved not equal to null, then return true. That means it has been saved or data has been inserted into table. Then it will return true and it will give me back to us true. If it is null, then it will return false. So we have done our business logic for creation of person entry in the database. Let's see what we have done so far. We have created one simple Java class that is marked as @REST controller and auto-void service here, and we are saying that give me the request from the user and we will save those information in database. Now second stands for R stands for retrieve. I want to retrieve all the information from the database. Whenever we are retrieving anything, getting anything from the database, then HTTP standards always recommended to use get mapping. It will give me the public list of person fetch all persons. Now we need to write one service method get all persons, and it will give me the list of let me create this method in service and save this one. We need to override this method in implementation of this interface, and we will use our DAO layer to get the data from database. Find all, and it will give, let me return this one. So we have created for retriever information as well. We are fetching all person based on this one. Now I want to fetch some record based on ID as well. Now I want to fetch the data based on the ID. Let's say again we are fetching, then we would need get mapping, and it will give me only a specific user. So I would say person fetch person detail, and we would need one parameter here, that is request param. We would have query param, we have request param, we can use any one of them. I'm using request param here. If I'm using request param, then I would need to give one name here. I'm saying this is ID. Okay, and this should be type of long ID, and I I will pass this ID to service layer, do the further processing. I will create one more record, get person based on ID, and it will accept ID here, and it should give person information back to us. Let me create one more method in service layer. Now override this one. Again we would need to call our repository or DAO layer from the service. I would say person DAO dot find by ID, and it will accept ID here. It will give me optional, so I would say if find by ID is present, then return find by ID dot get. It will give me the person object now, else return null. Now we have created 3 endpoints as of now, 3 web services, 3 REST APIs. One is for post mapping, that will create a person object into the database. One is for fetching all the person's information in database. One is for based on ID we are fetching. Last one we are looking for update and delete. When we are using update, then HTTP standards recommended to use put method, and in our Spring Boot we will use put mapping. It should be public so that it can be accessible from anywhere. We are updating record, so we would need something similar to this post one. Update person details now doing our best job, copy paste. So instead of save person, it will be update person. Person detail has been saved, no, updated has been updated successfully, and it will be unable to update personal details, which is fine. Now let me create this method. It will accept some information from user, right? Then only we can update those information. Now we need to create this method in service. Let me override this method in implementation of service. And pass those object to use this method, save as it is. Or we can do one more thing. First of all, we would extract the ID from person dto.get. Now we would need to define one variable here as well. In the case of update, it should provide the ID for which record, they are updating the record, right? And it should have getter setter here. We are generating getter setter for ID. Now let me save this one. Go to personal controller. Now it will give me ID, and this ID we can use as this one. We are calling person.find by ID. ID we will get optional object of person. We will check whether it is present or not. If it is present, then I would say give me the person object, and basis on that one, person dot set mobile, and mobile we will get from person dto dot get mobile. Same, we will set name as well. Person, now we will extract this name from person DTO, and we will do the same for date of birth as well, DOB. Now we have setted all the information. Now we will call person dot save return true. So basically, if it does, we will try to find person based on ID. If it does not exist, then it will be in a here and it will return false. Then we are saying unable to update the information. If it is present, then we will manipulating or processing the data and performing the operation on the database. Last one, we will focus on last endpoint, last web service. That should be the D stands for delete in CRUD. For deleting any resource or any data from database, HTTP standards recommended to use delete mapping or delete method. In Spring Boot we would use delete mapping, and it will be void only. Delete person, again it will accept ID, and based on that ID we will delete the information from the database. Now we need to create one more method, person service dot delete person info, it will accept this ID and do the, let me create this method in service and let me override the same method in let me write the business logic for deleting the person information from the database. First let me use person repository or person DAO. It will delete. First we need to use this ID find by. Let me check in database whether this ID exists or not. If this is not exist, then there is no point of deleting anything, right? Then I would put if condition here and I would say if find by ID is present. If it is present, then find by ID dot get, it will give me the person object. It will give me the person object. If it exists, and it will give me the give me back to the person object, then I would call person DAO dot delete and passing that entity here, and it will be deleting resource. If not available, then it won't do anything. Let me add database specific properties in application.properties file. We are saying that my application should run on port 8080. This can be achieved by using this command or this line is server.port 808, and this is a URL for which we are want to connect our database, and username password is root, and we are using show SQL queries. That means whatever the SQL queries executing in the background, that should be printed on the console. Let me run this application and see what are the errors, what we have done wrong so far. Now there are lots of things we need to cross check and understand very carefully. As soon as we have started this application on port 8080, if I will look that I have created one entity class. If you remember, if I will go to the entity class and I will see that we have created one class that is person, and we have added 4 column into it, and we are saying that ID is a primary key and table name should be this, and column name, if we want to mention explicitly, we can use @column annotation. Otherwise, whatever the variable name we are using here, that should be used as column name in our database. Now first thing we need to verify that the table what we have created, is this what we are expecting, or refresh all. If I will look into the console, then we can see here that this SQL query has been executed. They are saying create table person, and these are the columns which we are looking for. And if we will look into the database and see person table, date of birth, mobile, name, these all the column has been created, and whatever we have given here in the entity class. Okay, now let me check endpoint one by one. Go to my controller and open the Postman as well. Postman is a tool from which we can check our web services or REST API. let me use this one. My application is running on 8081 and this is a base URL persons, and this should be the post method, and body will contain JSON. I hope you all are aware of JSON structure. If not, then let me know. I will create a separate video for it. Let's say I want to create one user, one person. The name of person is John. Roy. Mobile is, let's say 9090129090. Date of birth, let's say 10th September 1990, and we will send the request. Let's see what we will get. Person detail has been saved successfully. Okay, if I will refresh this in database and see, oh great, name has been inserted, mobile number has been inserted, date of birth, and ID will be 1 as of now. Okay, great. Now again I want to create one more record. Let's say Joss Lee, and instead of 1990 it should be 1992 and should be Jan. And let me change a number as well, say 456. Create, let me create one more record. Let's say it's a Sam, and it is in 89 and phone numbers. Now we have been inserted 3 data, 3 rows in a table. Let me check here. 3 record, yes, Sam, Joss, John we have inserted. Now let me check my second REST endpoint for retrieval. URL remains same. The only thing which we need to change is method is get. We are getting all the 3 record, right? Now on the basis of, let's say I want to fetch this record. For fetching one record based on ID, we have created one more REST endpoint. This is for fetch person detail based on ID. So we can use @get mapping here, and base URL remains same, and ID is equal to 1. We will send and we will get this information. Let's say I want to get the record that contain ID as 3. Now we are getting this. Now I want to update this information, or let's say delete. I want to delete the record of ID 2, or method not allowed. Now let me check, try delete API as well for deleting the resource. If I will pass 1 and say this will be, let me check in database, ID1 has been deleted. Now let me delete ID3 as well from the database. Let me verify here in database. Yeah, 3 has been deleted. So pretty much we have covered everything. We have seen how we can create record in database, and how we can get all the information from the database, and how we can get the information based on ID. At the same time, we have seen how to delete the resource from the database. So we have tried to cover everything using a Spring Boot, Spring Data JPA, MySQL, and writing the business logic in Java. I hope you like this video. If you like this one, please do subscribe and comment below, and please share this with your friends if you find this one is useful. Thanks for watching.